Hey everybody, welcome back to my modern homestead. My name is Janet, and today we are going to do something with all these cucumbers we're getting out of the garden. But before we do that, just let me say that if you are new here or a new subscriber that's just joined us recently, I appreciate you so much. I love having you here, and I just enjoy the fact that you have chosen to spend part of your day with me. So anyway, let me show you. The last few days I have been getting buckets of cucumbers out of the garden. And when I started my garden this year, hold on. Of course, you know, we were late getting it in if you've been around a while because we moved. But I had three main goals. One was to grow cucumbers specifically to make this relish. Two, grow squash that I could put in the freezer for squash casserole. And three was just to see how things grew in the garden because it's a new soil, a new area, so I've got lots to learn. And so far, I'm quite satisfied. So today, let's get ready to make this, I don't know what I was about to say, this cucumber dill relish, not cucumber relish, dill relish. First things first, an apron, because we all know that I need an apron. Now, back behind me, I have the jars heating up on the stove, so they're ready to go. All we've got to do now is get the vegetables ready. All right, the first thing we need is the star ingredient, our cucumbers. Now we will need 14 cups for this recipe, and generally, this is just a bloom from the cucumbers, generally that comes out to be about 5 pounds, give or take. Then we'll need 1.5 cups of bell peppers and garlic. Now you can peel your own if you would like. I just decided to make this easier on myself, but we'll need 6 large cloves. Then we'll need some apple cider vinegar, celery seeds, celery salt, dill seeds, and kosher salt. Is that all we need? Oh, and turmeric. I did not get that out. But other than that, this is it, y'all. So let's get busy. I knew I was missing something else. We'll need 1.5 cups of chopped onion. So let's get started. First thing I need to do is just give the cucumbers a rough chop. These have already been washed, so don't y'all get me about that. Smells so good. And what you can do, especially for these bigger ones, is to cut them in half and then spoon the seeds out. And if you're wanting cucumbers for next year, save some of these seeds. There we go, and just keep going until you have all the cucumbers you need chopped up. Now I'm only doing rough chops because all of this will actually go into a food processor to do a fine chop. Look at all this goodness, y'all. All those animals out there are gonna love all these scraps. It is warm today, and if you've been here for any amount of time, especially since last December, what in the world did I just say? Gracious. Anyway, you know that I didn't even think I was going to have a garden, so this was just an experimental year, and I thought I had time to get stuff started. And according to Farmer's Almanac, I was behind and I panicked. So some of my stuff I bought and got it in the ground. And then this weather was so nuts that we had freezing temperatures after all of that. And some of my peppers and my eggplants, all of them actually, they died. But y'all, they came back. I've never had plants do that. Now the peppers I'm using today, they're not from my garden. My peppers aren't ready, not my sweet peppers. But y'all, I'm so excited. They all have peppers on them. My eggplants are getting so big. So I'm finishing up this one last cucumber, and we're ready to move on and get the rest of our ingredients ready. And this recipe is the same recipe I have used since the very first time I did dill relish years ago. And my philosophy is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It works. It's wonderful. I love it in my potato salad and my tuna fish. So this is what I'm using. And I had so much I didn't need to can it again until this year. I got by last year not making it, but I wanted to go ahead and make another batch for this year. So anyway, there are all of our cucumbers all ready to go. 5 pounds worth. So let's get these scraps out of the way and move on to onions and peppers. Y'all, if you're not used to using fresh produce, it is way juicier than something you would buy out of a store. All of the peppers I just used were from this morning. they ran everywhere. Okay, here we go. Got the scrap bowl for all the animals. Let's move on to our onions. We're going to do 1.5 cups. No, we're not. We're doing 1/2 cup. Excuse me. And also, I said that this was the recipe I've been using since I started making relish. That was a story after I thought about it. The first recipe or two that I used, I did not like. I didn't enjoy it at all. And then I got this one. I can't tell you if it was one I found and adjusted or if it was a recipe I used just like it was. I honestly cannot tell you, because this is written down in my own personal canning book that I wrote by hand. So I don't know where this recipe came from. But see, this is my canning notebook. It's broken up. I start at the beginning of the year. Well, that's things to buy. But I start with peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes. And then I move throughout the year, and I have the recipes that I like to make with those particular things that are tried and true. So I just have them written there. Anyway, let's get this onion done. For some reason, I thought I needed 1.5 cups. So I pulled out 3 onions. I think this is all I'm going to need. This one little onion, I think, is going to be perfect. Don't think I even need all of it. This quarter, I think, will be just right. And we'll put the rest of this in the refrigerator for later. It's a hair more, but not much. I'm not going to sweat it. You don't want to go over too much, though. You don't want to mess with the ratios for your acidity. Okay, and the bell pepper. I like to cut like this. If you cut along one of the nodules, you miss all those seeds. And for the rest of the pepper, you can miss the ribs when you cut it this way. And again, bell pepper, we only need 1.5 cups. Let's give it a rough chop and we'll be done. Ooh, so close. I need just a little bit of the second bell pepper. And again, guys, this has been washed. Jake's in there, he said, I'll eat the rest of it. I think he's the only animal that's going to get the remainder of the bell pepper, huh? So there we go. 1.5 cups of bell pepper. And again, just a rough chop. Ooh, this looks so pretty, y'all. Let's get our 6 cloves of garlic. And we're going to use large cloves. So 2, 3, 4. If you don't have large, just use 2 smaller ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. That's all the vegetables, y'all. Let's get these in the processor. So now, let's just get these in the processor and chop them up finely. You don't want to puree them, but you do. Whoa, that could have been a disaster. Want a fine chop. I have my pan back here to put everything in. There we go. And I don't mind a few bigger pieces in here. So this is good enough for me. I will dump this out into the pan and keep going until all the vegetables are done. Now if I have big pieces like this, I will take them out and reprocess them. But generally, that's as good as you need. Oh, it smells so good. And now I've taken out the blade. I scraped down the top. Now we're ready to go to the stove. This is going to be so good, y'all. And look, y'all, just like that, I've got everything washed up. I put the vegetables on the stove. Everything we just used is in the drain, drying. So now let's just start the party on the stove. We need to add 5.5 cups of apple cider vinegar. That was 2, 4, 5.5. With this recipe, you're not in a hurry, so let's go ahead and put this away and rinse this out. Now we need 1.5 teaspoons of celery salt. While I'm doing this, y'all, with that apple cider vinegar measuring cup, y'all, you clean with apple cider vinegar or regular vinegar. All you need to do is just rinse that out. You don't have to wash it with soap. The vinegar cleans as it's putting what you need into the recipe. So there's the celery salt. Now we need 1 teaspoon of celery seeds. Just a tad more. Then we need 1 teaspoon of turmeric. I entered this into a fair one time in my pickles, and they said they had a funny color. Well, y'all, it was the turmeric. What in the world do them people do? Got no business judging a canning competition if they don't know how to cook with turmeric. Come on now. Alright, then we need 3 teaspoons of dill seeds. Oh, they smell so good. 1, 2, 3. Don't skip the dill seeds. That's what gives you your dill flavor. And our garlic is in there. So we need 5 tablespoons of kosher salt. I'm not going to bore you with this. Y'all know how that looks when you measure and pour out salt. 4, 5. All right, there we go. And that's it, y'all. Now we're going to turn this up, or turn it on, period. And we're going to bring it to a boil. Don't forget to go ahead and mix it all together. Oh, this is going to be so good, y'all. I know I've already said it. It feels like 100 times, but I'm telling y'all, this is the best dill relish. There are some bigger pieces in there. Again, I'm not worried about those. It's a rustic look, right? It's homemade. It's not from the store. This is almost boiling. I'm going to give it just a minute or 2 more. Let it get going good, and then we'll turn it down and simmer for 10 minutes. Okay, the timer is about to go off. So I'm going to go ahead and take the jars out of the canner. Because this is going to can for over 15 minutes, for 15 minutes, which is over 10 minutes, it was not necessary to sanitize them, but I needed my water hot. So there we go. Anyway, let me pull these out and we'll get this going. Okay, now what I was trying to say is because this will, this hard water, y'all, it leaves such an awful mess on my jars. Because this is going to be canned for over 10 minutes, it was not necessary to sterilize the jars, but I wanted the jars warm so that when I put this hot relish in there, I reduced my chances of the jar breaking. It took forever to get that out, didn't it? All right. So what we do now is fill each jar to 1 inch, not 1 inch, 1/2 inch headspace. And I'm going to do this one jar just to show you what to do. In case you're new, you're limited on time and are not just taking a chance to relax for a minute. 1 inch, 1/2 inch. I don't know why I keep saying 1 inch. Right here. Okay, that's as close as I'm going to get it. Now we want to wipe around the rim. Sorry about the noise. I've got kids going in and out. And we're going to put a lid on it. A ring to finger tight. Once that jar starts turning, that's finger tight. And this is ready to go back into the canner. So let's finish doing it. When you get down to the bottom, you'll have to let the pulp drain a lot. That way you don't have mostly liquid in your jars. And I pulled out this little jelly jar since I couldn't use that one jar. I didn't realize it had rust or something on the inside of it. So anyway, let me get this one filled up and we'll move on to debubbling the rest of the jars. Okay, I paused and added a little bit more liquid, and I've also got some vinegar out because some of these jars where I had them in the pot of hot water, they've got hard water deposits already on the rim. And I don't know if it will affect the seal, but I don't want to take my chances. So I'm just wiping that with vinegar. There on that one jar, it was heavy for some reason. So anyway, whether you use vinegar or water, make sure you wipe the rims of your jars. If they're messy, really messy, especially make sure you use a different part of your paper towel each time you wipe a different jar. A lot of times you'll think you don't have anything on a jar, but it turns out you actually do. If you have any vinegar left in your bowl, just dump it over in your canner so that you're not wasting it. Woo. So glad I used vinegar on these jars to wipe the rims. I think that's just the way the glass is made. Okay. Now let's put a lid on the rest of these. If you can long enough, you're going to end up canning 2 lids on one jar. I've done it a couple of times over the years because these things like to stick together. All right, rings. Okay, y'all, let's get these in the canner. I just did get those jars in there. Okay, when it comes back up to a rolling boil, we will set the timer for 15 minutes. Okay, as you can hear, this is up to a boil, and we've set the timer for 15 minutes. So when it's done, we'll come back. There we go, y'all. There's our timer. Now what we're going to do is turn off the eye. Take off the lid away from you. Let that liquid drain. And then we're going to let this water become completely still before we do anything with our jars. That way that will help prevent some of the siphoning. So we'll be back once the water is still. It'll usually take around 5 to 10 minutes. One more quick note while we're waiting. I don't generally recommend that you put your jars this close together, but I only had 1 or 2 jars left and I didn't want to have to run a whole nother canner, so I just made it work. Leave a little bit more space if you can. Okay, this is almost completely still. It's got a few little swirlies down in there that you can see in person. You probably cannot see it on camera, so I'm going to give this maybe 2 more minutes and then we'll pull it on up. Now while we're waiting, just let me show you. We went ahead and got everything cleaned up. That's the bowl of produce we've still got to take out to the animals. But everything else is in the drain or already put up. You can see over there that napkin, that's just some of the cucumber seeds I'm saving. And that squash, we're going to chop it up and put it in the freezer. It's going to make some yummy squash casserole. Okay, that's long enough, y'all. I'm going to put on my Vader gloves just in case this wire is still hot. And then we're going to lift up the jars. Just like that. All right, let's move them to the cooling table. Ooh, you can hear them already sealing. so much for joining me. I hope that you have enjoyed this recipe, and I hope that you took a few minutes to relax. Pardon the kids coming back in from riding on the four-wheeler. So you guys, you know I love it when you come and spend a few minutes with me. So until we meet again, may you be blessed. Love you guys. Hey, Nanette. Hey, buddy.